Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is the Tesla Roadster version. We have a special guest today. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning, everybody.
And Brad Luchek.
Brad Luchek, one of our engineering, with the engineering staff at Gruber Motor Company. And we're going to talk about our remote diagnosis capabilities today. The image behind us, we usually describe that, where it came from. What I asked DAL-E to generate for us was a 2008 electric blue Tesla Roadster with an engineer standing by with a laptop. And it put a bunch of heavy equipment down on the floor by his feet, and then using AI again, you just simply draw a circle around it, you hit enter, and it removes everything and blends it in with the surroundings. So that's why it's a nice, clean image. And that guy standing there is actually supposed to be Brad. There's a pretty good representation there. Yeah. So here's the bottom line with the Tesla Roadsters. First of all, it's easy for us to repair a Tesla Roadster here stateside in the United States, even Canada, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because we can transport them in and do a deep dive and take care of deferred maintenance and do the upgrades and not only electronics but also suspension and shocks, brakes. Everything is wearing on these cars. But the problem we run into is when we've got a car on an island in the Mediterranean.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes.
Story.
We had a gentleman last week that we assisted. I forget the island, but it's just southwest of Spain in the Mediterranean. He needed a firmware update to address some issues, so we shipped out a laptop to him directly. We set up a time and a phone call, and he hooked up his laptop. We got him connected to the internet, and we had the cables for him to connect to his car. Just stepped him through that, and we were connected. We were able to complete firmware updates, and his key actually wasn't synced to his car, and so we were able to step in through that as well. So it was very helpful, and that saved him probably from either shipping out to some Tesla location service center there in that area or us. We were able to solve that right away, and he's pretty happy with that. And really, I think he had also some general questions, mechanical questions too, that I was able to have one of our mechanics also join the call just briefly and answer those. So we do have that resource as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and you say shipping it to a Tesla service center, but
Yeah.
an island in the middle of the Mediterranean
It's
is
difficult.
even a Tesla service center is going to be quite a ways away and quite an expense.
Oh, yeah.
So we have overland on the island.
Mm-hmm.
We've got sometimes a ferries involved, like one that came out of Vancouver just recently.
Yep.
Then you've got boat, ocean type transport. And if you think about all the complexities there, you have some customs requirements.
Mm-hmm.
You have some hazardous material type issues, and then you have overland again once it gets to the mainland, wherever that is. This may have been Spain. And then, of course, the other thing that you're struggling with is how many Tesla service centers today on the planet are still willing to take Roadsters for these types of repairs.
Yeah.
So this solves a lot of those types of problems. And in this scenario, what we were able to do was to actually ship the laptop. It looks like we've got a buzz here, so we're going to try to get rid of that.
You just made it worse.
It's probably laying down there.
It's the other cord, the other part, that one.
There you go. Way.
We got it. Okay. We are building a new studio, by the way, at some point.
Nice.
Maybe not
Yeah,
this year.
that's a lot better.
We're good now.
And just a side note really quick, I actually found out about Gruber through this podcast.
Through the podcast. Yeah. So we
And
recruit with these
And
too.
think about so I come from the IT world, and I've done IT for 15 years. We bought a Model 3,
Mhm.
and I just fell in love with the vehicle. I didn't buy it because it was all electric. I was just fascinated by the technology of the vehicle. And then when I got into, I was like, this is amazing. And then I started researching, and I found this podcast and also Sandy Monroe's channel. And I was just blown away by the teardowns, and I was like, you know what? I really need to this is just something I need to get into. Just like maybe like Apple, when Apple, before they came out with the iPhone and those things, I also see that same trend with Tesla. They
Sure.
and the trend that's happening, I see the same thing, and AI and Optimus and these type of things. I see an opportunity. I was like, I just want to be here on the front end of this journey that we're going to be on, and here I am.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome.
So with this capability, we've really taken our service offering to the next level. There are PEMs, for example, that
Yeah.
are shipped to us. We had one
Yep.
from Japan, actually.
Yep.
Is that still here, or has it left already?
That's still here.
It's
Yeah,
still
we're going to be
here,
shipping
okay.
it out soon.
And the reason that Roadster owners ship us a power electronics module is because they need to be rebuilt.
Mhm.
There are components in there that have aged 15, 16 years, like the electrolytic caps. And in order to keep that car running and the PEM from getting damaged by faulty components, a rebuild is absolutely essential. So in that scenario, these are shipped to us in crates
Yep.
and then rebuilt. When we have a software problem out in the field, the COM error that you get, the VMS corruption, for example, that tends to occur at times. This laptop approach with an engineer attached on some remote sessions is the way to resolve some of this.
Mhm.
And that was a very successful project that we
Yep.
undertook.
And we can diagnose battery pack issues. People get different error codes on our VDS screen. We can help troubleshoot those as well. Obviously firmware updates. How to pull all the the file logs. Kind of maybe either somebody needs that deciphered, which we also do. We also assist with that. People have sent their tar files for their log that they got from their car, and we're
let
able
me
to help with that.
Yeah, let me insert.
Yeah.
This is an absolutely free service.
Correct.
Remember, we have some free things here at Gruber Motor Company.
Yes,
the
yes.
Roadster matchmaking site, for example, and people always go, "Well, how do you do that?"
Yep.
Well, it's a community type service that we offer. So free log file analysis, and what this approach is able to do is go much deeper. The first step, of course, is we'll get a log file, and then we're able to actually go in the car. Now, we mentioned firmware updates. You can't do that remotely. You can't do that through, emailing a file to the owner. This actually requires this level of approach that we use with this laptop being sent to the customer. And then we can do a much deeper dive, troubleshooting error codes, for example, getting much deeper. Now, having said that, we should, at this point, should talk about our Roadster GPT and our Model S GPT.
Yes. So we have built a Roadster ChatGPT, basically, that has all our data from all the files and documents that we have here that we collected at Gruber
Since 2014.
in 2014.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we put that together, and that's been a tool for us here in our lab and in the shop. And we just built out a Model S one that I'm working on now.
And we combined that with all of the information that was released by Elon about 3-4 months ago or so, where he open sourced the Roadster information.
Right.
We're feeding all of this information into a large language model and then continuing to update as you guys are working on cars and finding new diagnoses and solutions, cause-effect relationships. Now, the benefit to the customer is a quicker resolution, which of course translates into monetary savings because we're not taking as long to diagnose and troubleshoot.
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at this car that was over off the coast of Spain.
Yep.
If I remember right, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, didn't that car start with a log file analysis?
Yes. Yeah, it started with.
Yeah, our customer didn't know what was wrong with the car. All that he knew was that the car didn't drive properly, and he was not wanting to spend many weeks and thousands of dollars to send the car somewhere until he understood a little bit more about what was going on. So we helped them with that, found out that it was something that could potentially be resolved remotely, and he was willing enough to be able to do that.
And this free service too, and as far as the log file analysis, we also create a report because a log is just a bunch of code, and so we translate that into a digestible, understandable report so the customer can decide what they would like to do.
And we're finding there's a lot of demand for this service. In fact, we have 2 more customers now. And being in the data communications cabling business, one of our divisions anyway, we are building out more laptops now. And what are we getting up to, 4 or 5 at this point?
Yep. Correct.
And our production team is manufacturing the custom cables necessary to interface these laptops into the Roadster.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome.
All right, so we're happy with that whole process.
Sure.
All right, let's see what else we've got in the Roadster world here. We got there was a Facebook post, VIN 733 Roadster. And here's how the story reads. It says, please advise, my 733 Roadster I put in my parents' garage.
Pete, can you move your mic in front of you, please? A little
Closer?
bit. Yeah,
Okay.
just a bit. Thank you.
So he placed it in his parents' garage, charging at 240 volts, storage mode. It's been there for several months, and about 3 to 4 months ago, he checked and it seemed fine. Today, I checked, and this was last week, and it's completely dead. Power adapter shows green light. I pressed the reset. It came back green. This is on a charge cable. And I turned the breaker on and off. There is no light where the wire plugs into the car. The white light ring is what he's talking about. It does not respond to the key fob. I can't even open the door, he says. So someone pointed out how to get in a locked Roadster when it's completely dead, and there's a key lock underneath the driver's side door.
Right.
You kind of have to lay on the ground and look up in order to see it, but it works. And be careful that you don't push or extend too far, because those are not affixed very well into the inside of the door. And when you break it loose, now you're in a different world of hurt. So they were able, or he was able to open the door, and then he asked for help. And a number of us chimed in, including us. We gave him 2 different newsletters that we have on our website. There's the How to Wake Up a Dead Roadster with a 12-volt external access, and What to Do When Your Roadster Gets Bricked. There are a number of important steps to follow, the most important being eventually pulling the service plug to stop any further battery drain to improve its chances of being recovered or repaired.
Right.
The other option is a $45,000 battery pack replacement. So it's important to follow those steps. But the reason that I wanted to bring this article to light is there are certain charging settings that you want to avoid. And Jesse, if we can go to the image library, it's probably charge-1. I did not bring up my images here, and I will in a second.
While you're bringing up images, I'm going to go through a couple of our comments on YouTube. Divij Posse Food and Travels Vlogs has given us 3 likes, thumbs up. Thank you very much. And asks, are there any updates on Tesla production plant in India? How would it go in the next upcoming 5 years?
You know, I'm unaware of any recent updates, and we are at the mercy of the media, just like you are. Don't have an inside track with Tesla where they're advising us on their production plans or their build plans. But it's very encouraging, because if you think about it, it makes perfect economic sense to locate in India, one of the largest populations in the world. And there's a void there, a big void. The closest thing we have is Shanghai and then Germany.
Well, and not only that, you've got a growing middle class in India over the last 15 to 20 years. People who 20 to 30 years ago could not afford a car of any kind at any price are getting to a point where they can start to afford electric vehicles. It makes perfect, or a car of some sort. So it makes perfect sense to locate an electric vehicle manufacturing plant there. It's additional high-paying jobs for the local economy, and it's going to help sustain the electric vehicles in India, which is where they want to go as well.
Yeah. So if we can bring up that image, Jesse, it's called Charge-1. There we go. The upper image there shows the select wrench, that icon. That's how you get into the charge screen, which is just below it there. And you can see you've got 4 settings there. You've got storage, standard, range, and performance. Where you want to do your charging is under standard. We do not recommend going into storage mode. It was originally designed for limited use and occasional charging, but it creates a very low state of charge, which means that the distance from a state of charge to bricked is very brief and very short. So you don't get as much time as you do if you're in standard mode and you're charging to the 83% level. again, we point out often what causes brick roadsters. That GFI plug on the end of
Yes.
the yellow charge
Yeah.
cable ranks right up there, right? Negligence, forgetting about the car, right? Leaving it unattended. Long vacations, improper care, lightning coming through, tripping a breaker and not
Yep.
getting reset. And storage mode also ranks up there.
It does. And if a cell goes bad, and we've seen that, we have some Tesla Roadsters that customers have asked us to store for them because we do monitor it, and we've seen Roadsters have cells that go resistive, while they're
Yes.
under our care, and we end up, we talk to them. Hey, over the weekend, your Roadster started beeping. It's got a resistive cell. We're going to go ahead and get it on life support. How do you want us to proceed? And they're always, well, try to do the recovery.
Needs to be repaired, yeah.
If you don't see your Roadster for 3 months, you never hear that beeping.
And we
Yeah.
check that weekly.
Yeah.
We do that
Yeah,
weekly
you
to
guys-
all the cars.
Yeah, you guys go through with the laptops,
Yep.
and when it's a resistive cell scenario, typically your charge level begins to get reduced, and that's of course a tip off to you guys. And yeah, I watch our the engineers. They go through all the Roadsters in our service center, and on a weekly basis, put laptops on them and do a deep dive to make sure that there's battery health. And that will continue, by the way, with our new electric vehicle storage facility.
Yeah.
Which
You're
is-
happy, right?
which is very close to completion. They're doing tile within the next week, grinding the floor in the storage area. The rest of the structure is done. We've got thick insulation, 6 air conditioning units, flat screens will be mounted, and it will look like a sci-fi building with umbilical cords coming down from the ceiling to the cars, with total monitoring with OVMS, continuously reporting what the state of the charge and the batteries is, or the condition of the Roadster.
Is there a
period.
cigar room in there?
You know, we're talking about that. The reason
Right,
being
we're talking
that
about it.
our thinking is that the types of customers we're likely to attract, being within a half a mile from an airport, and having exotic cars in storage, Roadsters. These are the type of people that may just appreciate a cigar lounge.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it would be.
It would be.
So for those of you looking to store your Roadster with us, you might want to take up cigar smoking.
Speaking of which, you guys got a brick to Roadster story up there from Facebook.
Oh, Facebook. Okay. Will NTO, yes, we've been talking to you on Facebook a bit regarding carbon fiber parts, but let's see what we're saying here. He says, funny story. I went to see a brick Roadster stuck in a service center. They let it sit for 6 months without doing anything.
Oh,
Oh boy.
When I asked if they at least pulled a service plug, they told me, service plug? Don't know about this thing. You know, we do our best to work with Tesla, and we send tech tips. And that has been a mantra that we have been promoting now for many years. The sequence of events when a brick Roadster comes in. So I'm surprised to hear that. This is in Europe, I take it. And we probably don't want to mention the service center at this point.
probably not. It's kind of sad to see though that the ignorance even at the service center still.
Well, and when you say still, it wasn't always this way. It's the absence of skilled Roadster technicians at these service centers
Yes,
now that
exactly.
are causing this. And Tesla is taking steps. They have training programs. And we're in communication with them. They are sending people back to training to learn Roadster. The buyback program, there's nothing more educational than taking things apart, to learn how it's put together. And of course, they're still hanging in there with parts. They could easily end of life this product and say, we're not going to support it anymore. We don't have to. It's been 16 years. You're on your own.
Yeah.
No more service available,
Yeah.
But they're hanging in there. So you do have to give them a lot of credit.
I absolutely give them a lot of credit. I wonder how much longer after the new Roadster comes out that they'll keep supporting the old one. I'm hoping it'll still be for several years.
Yeah. Facebook, Gary Pugmire says, you guys are inspiring me. I think I'm going to start wearing my Costas and Oakleys indoors.
Awesome, Gary. Do that. Please do that.
Got another picture to pop up here, Jesse. This one is called the Clean ESS Pack. And I put this on Facebook, and it got a pretty good response, excellent response, actually. I was walking by this battery pack one
It's
morning.
funny. I took a picture of it too when I saw it.
Oh, you
That's
did
funny
too?
you
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And I said, how did you guys score a brand new Tesla Roadster battery pack? And Brian says, oh, that wasn't new. That was grungy as hell. I cleaned it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So again, it reinforced to me there is a pride of quality workmanship that just permeates Gruber Motor Company.
Yeah.
I mean, you work
Yep.
there.
Yeah.
It's refreshing to walk into
Yep.
that.
Good people.
And and to see this kind of dedication to the craft. And it goes deeper. If you look at that wooden gurney underneath that battery pack, it took us a while to perfect these. And now we've got like 8 of them built up.
Yep.
We have to make our own tools because you can't go on Amazon and say, I want a Tesla Roadster ESS battery gurney.
Right. Right.
Maybe we should start selling them there. I don't know. So again, hats off to the team. Give lots of credit to them. And this is really a testament to the kind of a work ethic that exists at Gruber Motor Company.
Yeah, I see that throughout the shop. It's inspiring to walk into that shop,
Yes.
and every time you walk in, you think, okay, who have they just prepped for? Because this place is spotless.
Yeah.
I when I walked in the first time, this is the cleanest shop I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It's
It's
very,
amazing.
Yeah,
it's impressive.
So it's been great to see
Yeah.
so many of the guys
Yeah.
take such pride in their work and
Yes.
their work area.
So from here, that battery pack that you saw is going to be cracked open. Sheets most likely will be opened and they'll be removed for either a pop rivet modification or a brick problem and finding a resistive cell.
Yep.
And remember, out of 6,831 cells in a Tesla Roadster, it takes only 1 to kill the car.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
All right, got another picture here, Jesse. This one is the, I don't have it. The carbon fiber one is not there. All right, let me just talk about it then. We have a customer, actually 2 of them, that are interested in the carbon fiber hood vanes. Those are the 3 vanes that are toward the windshield. The bottom portion is usually left painted. And we have a couple of sources for this, and one of them we have not been able to find. But we have a source that actually makes the entire carbon hood, the carbon fiber hood vane. Those are a pain to get off of the mounting structure or the frame for the hood because they have a stud that runs in through, and in order to get that off, it's quite a project. Not impossible. So what another vendor came up with was an overlay. And we don't have the samples yet, but this is an overlay that actually fits over the painted surface, so it is owner installed. You don't have to ship us your hood or your car
Wow.
in order to
That's pretty
get
cool.
to convert to carbon fiber. And from what we saw, it's a high quality product. It actually wraps around a bit, so you can't tell that there's a painted hood vane underneath that.
That's incredible. Now, Jesse, if you look up in the images, I just put it out there, CF hood vane.
All right. Yeah,
Um,
there it is.
and that way we can actually see the picture of what it's like out there.
Yeah.
There we go.
And a lot of people like this, especially if they have other carbon fiber accessories on the car. The front lip, the spoiler in the back. They have interior carbon fiber pieces. Might even have a carbon fiber hardtop. Now, you might get carbon fiber overload, but it still looks good, I think, and I think people, I think that resonates with people.
I think the only Roadster that I've seen that might be carbon fiber overload is the one that was 100% visible carbon fiber.
We're going to
Yeah,
talk
that-
about that in a minute here.
Ah, good.
Okay.
'Cause
That is,
that was that's
that
an
is a lot.
incredible. It's an incredible car, and still, I think even then it looks great.
Right. Yeah, it does. Yeah, that car was here for quite some time waiting for a battery. We have a question here. Arto Valetelia says new Roadster battery. And the new Roadster batteries are still in production. They've gone from $29,000 October 2nd of last year to $40,000 before tax. So you can essentially pay about $45,000 for a replacement battery. Now, this is a good thing because the cars would not be able to continue to survive without an option like this, because no one in the independent space has gone into production making a Tesla Roadster replacement main battery pack. There's some prototypes floating out there, and commendable that these guys are working on it, like the German vendor. Yeah, Mark Nolte.
Yeah.
Marco, there you
Marco
go.
Nolte.
So it's commendable that that this is available. Of course, the price went up quite a bit. The good news is if you had a pre-order in, they will honor the old $29,000 price, and with tax, that comes to about $34,000 or so.
Oh, that's nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Looks like Neil's joined us.
Yeah, Niels has finally joined us, and I'm sure that Niels, you've been watching and just haven't commented much recently, but we do appreciate your comments. Niels with the Bion Danish Genome Institute says, Mercedes also knows that supporting their old cars all the way back helps to preserve both their reputation and helps to sell new cars. I think one can get all the parts for even a 190 SL, for example.
It's smart, yeah.
And that is, it's very smart. And the 190 SL, that is an old style car.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
You know, what I always fall back on is we've got a new $250,000 Tesla Roadster number 2.
Mm-hmm.
How many collectors would really plop down $250,000 for a car that may not be supported in 10 to 15 years?
Yeah,
So they're going to have to
much nobody.
continue to support the original, the original Roadster.
Yeah.
To get rid of that stigma. And they're doing an excellent job, by the way. No issues. So we began to talk about the carbon fiber Roadster, and it's for sale currently. We are waiting for Jameson Cummings to put that up on our Tesla Roadster matchmaking site.
Mm-hmm.
We also have pictures of it. For those of you interested, it's on our website under Gallery, and you'll see 100% carbon fiber Roadster out there. It's not quite 100%. The front clip is too many compound curves, and doing carbon fiber on that was not possible. So that's painted in a color very close to the carbon fiber.
Mm-hmm.
Are they panels that we're replacing, or is this covered the paint?
It was actually a overlay on the existing
Overlay.
panels.
Got it.
Yep. And if you take a look at the gallery pictures, there's also a website that you can go to, and let me see if I have that here. If I have that link for you. I do not.
Wait, so which you want me to pull it up off our gallery?
Yeah, on
Carbon
our
fiber
gallery.
Roadster?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
give me a second.
The car came to us in 2019, I believe it was, from a body shop that was redoing the clear coat, which had begun to yellow and age, which sometimes happens. And the charging protocol was not sufficient, and the car got bricked. So they actually drove it to us on a flatbed, and we did our deep dive. We got log files. It turns out it was one of the original issue 3.0 packs,
Okay.
which are problematic cells in a number of ways. They brick faster, and we ended up finding too many bad sheets. And of course, there were no 3.0 sheets available in 2019. You had to find collision damage cars, and there weren't any, to our knowledge, available at that time. So the car sat. We kept it on life support, and eventually the owner decided to ship it up to Carl Medlock's shop with Jameson Cummings.
Mm-hmm.
Is it this one?
There you go. Yes.
Visible carbon fiber?
Mm-hmm. And if we can open one of those images, yeah, you can see some of the carbon fiber. There we go.
It's a lot of fiber.
Yeah, it is.
That's a lot of fiber. Yes.
Now, what's unique about this Roadster, and this is why it should be collectible, it was called the Roadster RR, and it was a unique creation, according to Jameson's post here. It was born from Tesla's ambitious vision for the eSport program, which is a proposed venture aimed at crafting high-performance parts akin to the renowned programs like Mercedes-AMG and Ford's SVT. So this was built as a singular showcase, a one-of vehicle that boasts a bespoke interior and unparalleled raw carbon fiber work, making it an unparalleled gem in the Tesla lineup. Despite its groundbreaking design, Jameson adds, and meticulous engineering, the eSport program sadly never materialized beyond this exceptional prototype. Now it's been restored with a state-of-the-art 3.0 battery pack, so it is driving. Oh, that's when we received it. Yep, there you
Yep.
go.
As I say, there's the flatbed you had it on.
Mm-hmm. And this remarkable Roadster is now offered for sale, awaiting a collector or enthusiast eager to claim a piece of automotive history. Now, here's what makes it unique. It was crafted with precision Italian Terox brakes, which is a 4-piston caliper. And so it's got stopping power that is highly unusual in striking blue anodized finish. In fact, there's probably a picture of the brake there that we can show. And it also required some of the ABS pump modifications, which was done by Bespoke. It was a recalibration by Continental, and it involved custom flashing of the ABS controller to fine-tune the braking system's performance. The result, he says, the pedal feel and significantly reduced stopping distances, surpassing the lackluster performance of the stock brakes. The second thing that was unique about it, there was some suspension upgrades. And they got custom-tuned Bilstein sports shocks, not your standard issue stock shocks that came with the Roadster. The Sport Roadsters had the external canister version, but this actually took it beyond that. And it was a combination of custom design and valving by Murray Coote of MCA, suspension from Sydney, Australia, with a prestigious track record of crafting shocks for elite teams, including Porsche Cup and WRC cars. And they go on to say that it brings unrivaled expertise to the Roadster RR. I don't know what the RR stands for. He doesn't say in this article, but I'm sure we'll get that information for the next podcast. So custom suspension components. And then finally, traction. This actually has a bespoke locking differential crafted by Hollinger Engineering, renowned for their championship-winning racing gearboxes.
Here's the brake.
There you go. Yeah. And there are the 4-piston calipers. It also had custom discs. So the rear end is also custom. So it makes this car very unusual. Once we get this thing listed and we can give you the website, there's already some information posted on this. The collectors can then pour over this and decide if this is worthy of their purchase.
Yeah, it's definitely a sweet car. And those Bilstein shocks are probably the closest that I've seen to the shocks that we provide the cars now from Intrax. Because the Intrax shocks are essentially the same type of build and quality as the Bilsteins were.
TikTok, Mike asks, is it possible to increase the CAC by discharging to a certain point or charging at low voltage /amps? Yeah, there is. If you're doing nothing but 120-volt charging, it does tend to affect the CAC. And what we need to do, thanks for reminding us, Mike, we need to document the steps necessary to improve the CAC value. It's not going to be dramatic or major, 10 clicks, but it will improve it somewhat. We'll work on that. We got another image to post up here, Jesse. This one is called Heat Shield -1. And part of what makes Gruber Motor Company so unique is we have a lot of expertise there, and these guys are innovators on top of just being able to repair cars and do wonderful things like clean a battery pack. They actually innovate. They try to solve problems. They try to build upon the original design. Heat Shield -1.
Heat Shield, okay.
It looks like they're trying to build the next Mars Orbiter Roadster.
So the goal here was recognizing that there is a fair amount of heat that is radiated from underneath the car, especially in Phoenix when you're driving over hot asphalt.
Oh, yes.
And the drive motor, and the PEM sits almost on top of that. It transfers a lot of heat into the PEM, And the PEM, of course, is struggling then, since it's already being forced induction type cooling with heat sinks, to keep the temperatures at certain levels so that you don't go into limp mode or into reduced power mode. The 1.5s are notoriously poor in that category. Even the Roadsters that we get from other places that come in, 1.5s, when we're test driving during Phoenix summers, that's when the heat problems tend to reveal themselves more.
Yes.
So one of the things that one of our master mechanics who has experience in the McLaren world decided was, let's create a heat barrier and improve the cooling efficiency of the PEM by putting reflective shields or radiant barriers that will reflect the heat rather than absorb it. And maybe you can talk about this as well.
We're going to be doing some tests coming up. Summer's coming, so we'll be doing tests on this and measuring temperatures and different drive distances and different things here. We'll have a bunch of data on this.
In our test mule VIN 711.
Yeah, correct. In one of our test cars.
Do you have a control PEM that you're going to be able to
Yes,
swap
we do.
in and out of it as well?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we have a test PEM that will swap out and do the same tests.
Oh, this is going to be fascinating.
That'll be really cool.
It'll be very cool, and it's gonna be very important because of the number of people that we've had as customers who have had issues with their PEMs because of heat.
Yeah.
It's not just the PEMs going into limp mode or the car no longer being able to drive full power. It's also component degradation.
Yes.
Yes.
Because heat, is affects the quality of the components. Electrolytic caps, for example, dry out quicker
Yes.
depending on the temperatures. And IGBTs, the main power transistors. That's why they have heat sinks. You try to keep them as cool as you can.
Yeah, even the insulating material degrades much more quickly in a hot environment than it does cooler.
And that's how the conversation kind of started with this project, but also having going in limp mode also will help. That this will prevent that.
Can you bring up Heat Shield -2, Jesse, and we'll show a different angle of this power electronics module and how it has this reflective barrier now that's been coated on the bottom of the PEM. And then the final thing we'll show how close the PEM is to the actual drive motor. There we go. So yeah, he did a pretty good job coating it, doing the cutouts for the connector ports, and for some of the hardware that sticks up through that. And then finally, we've got Heat Shield -3. And here you can see the Tesla Roadster drive motor and the gearbox with the battery shown on top. And you can see how the PEM literally sits on top of that drive motor, which also has a heat sink. It's to the right where Brad is nodding his head. That is the heat sink that goes around the motor, and there's a fair amount of heat thrown off of that as well. So look for some further data as we get into the warmer months, and we'll be reporting whether this will now become part of our Roadster PEM rebuild process, putting heat shields
By all means.
onto the PEMs. By the way,
Maybe we'll give an update later when we get all this data.
Yeah,
The podcast, yeah.
definitely.
Yep.
If we can go back to Heat Shield -1, there's something else that we should have pointed out. Actually, two things. As it comes up here, there's a duct that you're going to see, a 4-inch neoprene duct, and I'm going to try to point to it right there. And that is a neoprene rubber duct, which after 15 years becomes brittle, cracked, fissured, and the CFM, cubic feet per minute, you're getting to the heat sinks, which are right. I'm going to let you point to that, Brad. Those holes right there.
Right here?
Yeah. Those are the heat
He's
sink
up here.
exhaust holes.
Right here.
So the amount of air getting through the power electronics module to cool the transistors is compromised, and we routinely recommend changing that neoprene 4-inch duct.
There we go.
There is also nylon tie wraps that were used in stock to affix that to the plenum. We change those to stainless steel because after 15 years, those nylon tie wraps are brittle, cracked, broken off, or completely missing. The other thing that you see here is down here, there we go, right about there. You see that orange thing? That is the motor block, the motor mounting output block, which has been converted to orange because these are black ABS plastic. They're brittle, they crack, and they're no longer usable in a lot of cases. So what we've begun to do is 3D print that part and make improvements to it. We actually have brass PEM nuts inside the 3D printing portions now, and this has become a fairly common replacement item because when those crack, you're no longer able to get the torque necessary to the motor, three-phase motor cables.
Right. And that lack of torque, of course, then causes heat, which causes further failure, which causes further degradation.
And then finally, if you go up a little bit, Jesse, with that image, there's a connector, a series of connectors there in the corner. And yeah, I guess it's behind me. The fourth connector to the left is the PEM fan cooling connector. And that's the part that typically burns up when you've got a compromised PEM. And the reason is it was really undersized. It was rated for a certain amount of amperage, and during worst-case scenarios, that amperage is exceeded, and the pins tend to heat up and eventually melt and burn that connector. So, since that was open, I wanted to show everybody what the topology of the bottom of the PEM is. All right. One other question that we had from a customer, unless we have questions to go through here.
There's a couple of questions here. One from TikTok. Wisconsin Jeeper says, so if I was a guest on this show, would I be required to wear sunglasses as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a prerequisite. Yeah. We screen our guests carefully. And if they don't have sunglasses, we will either provide them or just not have them on the show.
Oh, I mean,
It's true. It's true.
we've even, I think even when we had Sandy Monroe on, he wore sunglasses for us.
Yeah. They know the drill.
Yeah.
Now, with Elon, if we ever get him, I wonder how that'll resonate.
He'll do it.
Oh, we'll
Totally do it.
if we get Elon on, we'll provide him a pair of Oakleys or something like that.
All right. With of course, the sunglass cases.
Of course,
Yeah,
with the
'cause
sunglass
he gets
case.
a free gift.
Yes, yes.
All right. Highlander, he says, but Autoline After Hours did an awesome podcast on EV motors and how you can redesign them so you don't need heat shields just by making them more effective. Well, yes, fans, heat shields, these are all engineering design compromises.
Yes.
The real goal in engineering and designing something is to eliminate fans.
Yes.
So it's usually an afterthought.
Yes, it definitely. And Highlander also says Bilstein manufactures their shocks differently than most others. I think I've mentioned that I used to work there as a contractor.
Oh,
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay.
And you know, we tried Bilstein for the replacement shocks for the Roadsters, and they are no longer available. In fact, they said that the original engineers that designed them for the Roadsters are no longer there. They have no idea where the documentation went. So we ended up going to a company that's been making performance shocks for 50 years plus
Right.
in Belgium, right?
Okay.
And that's where we get our shocks these days. For the Roadster, they're specifically made for the Roadster, and they are the performance version. We're not even trying to get the base version. We just go for performance right off the bat.
Yeah,
Yep.
definitely.
And by the way, I have a testimonial here from a customer that just sent that in a couple days ago, and let me read that to you. I'll have to find it here. He says, last week I drove to Gruber Motors to get new shocks and suspension upgrade. The car was there for a couple of weeks, and I was treated very well. He said the upgrade, all capital letters, was outstanding and noticeable. This is a Sedona, Arizona customer.
Oh, yeah.
Very happy. And, you know, the cars that I'm driving that you guys are rebuilding with full suspension upgrades, it's a world of difference. It's from dump truck to Cadillac.
That's so different. Wow.
All right, getting back up here to the other items. Had another customer that was asking about CAC, first of all. And we had a question earlier about that as well. We're going to get you some CAC improvement tips. And he says that if you want to replace the pack, is it done at the Tesla Service Center? The answer is yes. We have not yet been sanctioned to do the pack replacements, although everybody at Tesla realizes we do that every day, and we do more Roadster battery packs than anyone on the planet. They will eventually give us that license or that status. But in the meantime, if the cars are at our shop, we work closely with the Tempe, Arizona Service Center, and that's where
Yes.
we send all of our cars for the battery replacement. It makes sense to send us a brick Roadster because the Tempe, Arizona Service Center has a pretty quick turnaround normally. And we work closely with them. In other
we do.
words, if there is a problem after the battery pack replacement, they give the customer the option. Do you want Gruber to repair it or do you want us to repair it? And typically the customer will select us and we do the repairs because the battery is already now 100%.
Right. And there's a lot of reasons that there are reasons for batteries to go bad. They don't just, it's not always that a battery gets old and goes bad. And so Tesla will tell them the reasons, and then they communicate with us as well. So they give us the information.
Because the reasons for getting bricked weren't always just simply no charge negligence. They were oftentimes problems in the electronics that prevented it from charging.
Yes.
And that is not discovered until you put a new battery in there and then say, oh, looks like this thing wasn't able to charge, and that's why it got bricked.
Yes.
Yes.
So what he's asking is, my CAC is low. It was just under 122. And he said, I'd like to get my pack replaced. So how do I do that? Well, my comment was, your car needs to be bricked or dead to get in line for a replacement. And the lead times are typically 3 to 6 months. Tesla has not yet released the purchase of battery packs for functioning cars, or elective replacements, as they called it. So for now, replacement for him is not an option. And again, the cost is $40,000 plus tax.
Yeah, we've seen some cars that have pretty low CACs. He talks about a CAC of 122. I think we've seen in the 100 to 110 range,
Yeah.
where the overall range for the car is in the 115-mile range.
Right.
And yet they're perfectly fine
Running.
cars.
Yep.
Yeah, they're still
pretty
running.
good.
They're not declining. There are no resistive cells. Our advice to customers is, if you can live with the reduced range, keep driving it.
By all means.
Yeah. The other option they have is, if they send the car to us, we can harvest the good sheets.
Yes.
And then, then Tesla is willing to take that battery pack because it is now bricked.
Yes. And that's definitely a case where the customer is consigning those sheets to us with an agreement.
Mhm.
And we use those sheets to help repair batteries that have bad sheets, and it's with full knowledge of the customers. It's nothing that we do behind anyone's back.
Right. And the customer has a recovery because under consignment, they get revenue every time a sheet is placed in another car to keep another Roadster alive. And Tesla really doesn't care because they're going to scrap those sheets anyways.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Have another customer here. He's up in Canada, and he had a switch pack replaced at one of the service centers up in Canada. It turns out that they were unable to find any switch packs in the United States. They had to go to Europe, and they found one, and they said this is most likely the last one in existence at Tesla.
Oh, no.
So anyway, he's asking now, can we rebuild his original 1.5 switch pack? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
And that is going to be the only way, by the way, to keep these cars on the road, is to be able to rebuild the electronics, troubleshoot down a component level to keep these cars running.
Yes.
It's not economically feasible to go to a circuit board vendor and say, hey, can you recreate this?
Right.
First of all, there's an extraordinarily high minimum order quantity. And then the cost based on a lowered MOQ, since we're not going to buy 500 or 2,000,
Yes.
is going to be astronomically high. So repair is definitely the way to go. He also has a 420 error, which is pointing to the APS unit.
Correct.
And that's one of the things that we gave to the team, the engineering team. And what they do is they apply artificial intelligence, and they're going to give him a full report on what this 420 error means. And again, it's free. Feel free to contact us. Get free log file analysis, tech support, and we're there for you without charging you.
Niels has a comment for us on the RR designation.
Okay.
He says, for BMW motorcycle models, RR stands for race ready.
That's
It
probably it.
might be the same here, and that it might be, or it could be remarkably raw since it's a raw carbon fiber. He says, "Who knows?"
You got me groping for terms now with 2 R's in them. Really cool, but that's RC, right? Well, anyway, Jameson, I'm sure will pipe up at some point. He sometimes watches these live, but he'll probably watch it later and realize that his expertise is needed, and we need some more inputs about this carbon fiber Roadster.
Pete, question for you.
Yeah.
Will we be able to train AI one day to read and help do that log file analysis?
Have you guys tried that?
It's possible.
I think we should work on that. That'd be a good
awesome.
project.
It's possible to do that. Yeah.
Hey, Mark, you've done the log file encryptions.
Yeah.
What's that written in? What kind of what's a .tar file?
A .tar file is a type of backup file. We think in the Windows world of zip files. It's simply a compressed file.
Compressed file. Okay.
And Unix has used tar files since the early 1970s.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it's simply a compressed text file. That's all it is.
And then we have a parser that
We have a
breaks that
parser
out
that
and translates it all.
pulls it out.
Yeah.
If we were to tell AI how to translate the file, there's no question that AI would be able to do it.
That's our project for today then. Jesse, you're thinking out the box again. Thank you for innovating.
So actually pulling the analysis and doing that parsing is one thing, but I'm talking about actually doing the analysis of the data that's output.
Yeah, that can be done. Yeah, once it's the log file is parsed.
Give us all the relevant info and create a report and auto-generate a report, do all of it.
Yeah, that's definitely possible.
That's an intriguing prospect because we have how many hundreds of log files in our data tables because we do keep copies of the log files. We've had people come back to us and say, I need to get information about where my Roadster was at on this day.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Jameson did with his carbon fiber Roadster, and we pulled a log file from 2019 and sent it to him.
Yeah, it's been very valuable for us to keep that. We could feed those log files along with instructions on how it could interpret the log files, and I'm sure it'd be able to come back and get stuff to us.
If we have some results, we will report on the next Tesla Roadster podcast and let you know what kind of success we had.
That sounds interesting.
So usually during these Roadster podcasts, we have to remember that it's not just the OG or the original Roadster. It's also the new Roadster that we need to begin thinking about because a Roadster podcast may just include its new brother, right?
That's right.
So I'm going to insert one thing here. This is from an article, and the headline is Tesla Roadster to have SpaceX and drive-by-wire tech in less than a second, says Elon. And this was from the Don Lemon Show. By the way, there's some controversy between we won't go into that, all right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Where they were discussing the future of Tesla's upcoming Roadster. And they gave us, or at that point, Elon gave us a rare glimpse into what this is going to be like. He says you can expect some rocketry stuff or rockety.
I think somebody did like a video where they had like an artificial demonstration of that.
Yeah.
Somewhere on YouTube.
There was a picture, and I don't have it here, of actual rocket thrusters on the back of the Tesla Roadster. Now, just think about how you could eliminate tailgaters with that thing.
Sweet.
Oh, gee.
But they are going to, they talk about coal gas thrusters into the vehicle, so it won't be flames. I don't think anybody will be seriously injured.
Some modification maybe after the fact.
Well, perhaps a new hairdo, but
Yeah.
And then Elon did confirm that it will achieve 0 to 60 in an unprecedented 1.1 seconds. And now he says it's less than 1 second.
Wow.
That's probably with the thrusters. So it's coming. What was the last date that we heard?
Last date that we heard was that they would have the more formal announcement of production ready or of it being production ready by the end of 2024, and then either late 2025 or early 2026 be in production ready to sell.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's finally talking dates after all these years, but we'll see.
All right. Highlander says, I didn't realize today was Wednesday. You'd get the joke if you don't, the Islander.
Okay.
Oh, yes. And then Niels also says, well, strictly tar means tape archive, and it does not have compression. but often tar files are compressed and they become tar.gz or tar.bzip2, etc. From the nitpicker.
From the nitpicker. We appreciate your insights,
Let's
Niels.
go.
You're always
You're right as usual,
yeah.
Niels.
always giving us an education, and we in the audience appreciate it. So
Use ChatGPT probably to get that answer. No.
Oh, I don't think Niels did.
No, I was kidding.
we're challenging him now.
Yeah, that one's one Niels is one of the few people that I would
Yeah.
respect what he
Oh,
says
yeah.
for what he says.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So Tesla Takeover Europe is May 25th and 26th on a weekend. It's in Flachau, Austria, outside of Salzburg, and it's going to be nestled in the Alps at a ski resort. No snow on the ground by then. It'll be green and a part of the world that is definitely one of the prettiest, between alpine lakes, green grass and cows in the fields, and it will be snow-covered mountain peaks. I think they're snow-covered all year.
I
even
think
through
they
summer,
are.
yeah.
They're high enough in the Alps there. That,
So for those of you interested, it's May 25th, 26th, the weekend. They say the Tesla Takeover event will have a wide array of speakers, workshops, live music, light shows, and so much more. Most importantly, it's an opportunity to bring the Tesla community together all in one place. They're expecting 1,000 cars, and the graph or the chart that we threw up earlier showed about 24 different countries that will be participating, clubs in those countries.
Nice.
it's going to be a really exciting show. You think there's any chance that somebody's going to be able to get you a Roadster to be able to drive down there?
Actually, Conrad, I think, has offered that, but the logistics, we'd have to drive somewhere, get it, and all that. So
yeah, it's kind of hard.
I think we're going to show up with an ICE car and then hide it somewhere.
There you go.
Rental cars are not, you can't get Teslas easily when you're renting. All right. Wanted to talk a bit about Fisker. Fisker's running on fumes right now, and without an additional cash infusion, a Chapter 11 filing appears imminent. Protection from creditors seizing property and assets is what Chapter 11, of course, affords you.
Yep.
But credit with supply chain usually dries up, COD prevails, and for a company without adequate cash. Now, you had also mentioned that Chapter 11 proceedings eventually end up in Chapter 7.
Not always, though.
Okay.
Companies can and sometimes do emerge from a Chapter 11 proceeding. You think about 2008, General Motors. Went from General Motors Corporation to there's a slightly
New entity.
different
Yeah, new entity.
different name, but so General Motors Corporation died, a new corporate entity took its place. In fact, just this week we heard about that with Lordstown Motors. Lordstown Motors has now emerged from bankruptcy, and they're called New Motors, NU, and they're listed on the NASDAQ. They have they have no debt. They have cash. They don't have any debt. They got that all settled in bankruptcy court, and it's a new beginning for them to be able to go. So it does not necessarily mean the death of a company if it goes to Chapter 11. Chapter 7 bankruptcy is. Chapter 7 bankruptcy is equated with we are going to liquidate all your assets. We're going to pay the creditors whatever money is there, and then there will be no money left over, and there will be no entity. Everything will stop.
Okay. The reason I brought that up in a Tesla Roadster podcast is to remind people how close Tesla came to this stage during the Roadster project.
Yeah.
It was short of a miracle that this company survived, and Elon talks about it often.
During a recession. That was during a recessionary
Exactly.
period. Yeah.
And his unwillingness to quit, and of course the Model S launch eventually made the company solvent again.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, and they almost went through it in 2018 as well with the Model 3 and the Model Y. There are recordings as well as posts of Elon talking about they being Tesla being less than one payroll away from bankruptcy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now in China, are we going to see that as well with a BYD out there, and then there's a bunch of other EV companies that are struggling? You see?
I don't have any financials on BYD. I don't think we've been reporting on that.
We haven't been
yeah.
reporting the financials of BYD as much. They're not very transparent is the problem. It's being a Chinese-owned and Chinese-run company. They have different financial reporting requirements than the companies that work here in the States. That actually is one of the political issues with BYD, as the United States is concerned that the Chinese government will pour so much money into BYD that BYD will undercut the rest of the market, take over a large portion, and then they can start to raise prices. Basically, the old time robber baron, Standard Oil, we're going to drive everybody out of business because we'll sell at a loss type of a strategy.
I mean, some of the information I saw was that there's smaller EV companies out in China, and BYD is the number one out there. And right now, some of those smaller companies are struggling, and something on the horizon the next quarter or something. Several of them will be closing down as well. But from what I saw, is BYD isn't as profitable as Tesla on their sales out there. They have some financial data out there, but
and of course, government subsidies, like you pointed out, which makes it kind of murky as to what their solvency is.
But you are right, Brad.
Yeah, the thing that we didn't talk about in the last podcast was that BYD is actually coming out with a under $14,000 EV.
Yes.
And that's going to be a game changer. Now, what will happen with tariffs being applied to protect the U.S. auto industry will be an interesting dance.
Well, it really will, because if you're starting at $13,000 to $14,000 where BYD wants to be, even adding a 25% or a 50% tariff, because many cars have a 50% tariff, not 25. Okay, 14,000 times 50% is still only $21,000. They're still cheaper than anything here in the United States, and so that's causing a lot of angst inside of Washington D.C. because BYD built their brand on low cost, affordable electric vehicles for the taxi industry. They went kind of the opposite of Tesla, where Tesla went high end and then came down. These guys went ultra low end, learned how to get their costs under control, and then built up from there. So they know how to do a low cost vehicle. There's no reason to think that they can't do something for $13,000 and do it very well.
And they also know how to avoid tariffs by locating in Mexico.
That's correct.
Yes, they do.
They're building a couple of factories out there. Yep.
Well, did you see Trump go on his whole rant about that?
Yeah.
He said he's gonna put a stop to that if he gets elected. So he's very aware of that.
He said 100% tariff or
He's
something.
He's going to make Mexico pay for it.
Oh yes.
So we got another picture here to throw up. This one's called 1144 error, and this is a fairly common Tesla Roadster error. Here's an owner that said that he's got a 2.0. And she's one of my daily drivers. I recently had an annual done by Tesla, and ever since then, I've been getting these powertrain problem alerts. Does anyone have an idea what this could be? And then, of course, the comments began to trickle in. It's pointing to fan problems. Yeah, the PEM cooling fan. And a lot of people had suggestions, change this, change that. My initial suggestion is there's a cause-effect relationship here. If they just got done with an annual, it's quite likely that a connector isn't completely plugged in. And if you go to picture number PEM underneath connectors, Jesse, we'll be able to show you which connector we're talking about.
The fourth connector.
Right, the one on the right there.
Yeah.
So there we go. The one right by Mark's head, in between Mark and Brad, is the PEM cooling fan connector. Right.
Yes.
It may be an easy fix. Maybe it just needs to be plugged in properly. And where this is, of course, is underneath the PEM on the passenger side, the far right passenger side. Well, you guys do this all day long. What suggestions do you have besides looking for that?
As far as, checking the connection, also if you disconnect it to see if there's any charring or something.
Burnt
Sometimes
pins.
we've seen that burnt.
Discoloration.
Did you check for that?
And a worst case scenario is you've got charring, you've got a burnt pin and socket combination, and now that power electronics module has to come out, and that 90-degree edge board connector needs to be replaced, and the wiring harness needs to be either repaired or replaced.
Sometimes they need to be repinned. Sometimes where the pins inside the connector need to be redone.
Okay.
Seen that as well.
On the cable, not
on the cable itself.
connector. Any parts required, we stock this. If you go to our website, you go to the e-store, we've got the dual fan assembly, brand new Spall fans, and we also sell the cable harness. So all of the parts are available. But the place that I would start is with a warranty claim, because if the symptom occurred after an annual, more than likely that's where the problem is going to be resolved.
So we have a few comments that we want to get to before we wrap things up. Van Goat, he says, I hope Mark and I can fit in one or at least get out.
Yeah.
Talking about the new Roadster. That was an older one.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And I've been in a Roadster, and trying to do the Roadster wiggle to get out of that Roadster was because of my height, more than my girth, actually.
Okay.
Was the problem, because as I tried to get myself up and out, I would hit my head on the roof, and when I tried to lower my head, I could no longer get out, and so I got out eventually.
Did you roll out on the floor like that Lamborghini owner?
Not far from it, actually. Yes.
For those of you interested in a humorous but educational video, if you look on YouTube, and this is from 9 years ago, Zach Edson, who later on left Tesla, worked for Tesla, now is the director of service operations at Lucid, is 6'6" tall. And he, with a couple of other Tesla Roadster techs, demonstrate how he gets in and out of a Tesla Roadster.
Oh, that has to be humorous.
It's terrific. And it's not what I would have thought. I thought you put your butt in first and then angle your feet. No, he actually starts with his right foot toward the gas pedal, the accelerator, pedal, and then maneuvers from there on the same getting out. But it is worth watching.
That has got to be a watch. He'll give you some tips.
Yeah.
Highlander says, we went from Roadsters to AI. That's why I had said Wednesday. When you're there in Austria, this is to you, Pete, please say hi to Brian White, the Tesla weekend. He says, also, I'm glad I didn't buy any Fisker.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah, if I find Brian White, I will tell him hi from you. Niels is saying, I read Fisker got another 150 million convertible note. I heard that as well this morning.
Yeah.
It's a death spiral. Somebody pointed out they're like burning $1.5 million a day, so they've got 1 month worth of cash at this point.
Ooh.
He said it's a death spiral. This crazy Dane is doing it again and again.
Yeah. Well, that's been part of the comments that Henrik Fisker is at it again, and I hope not, but they've got a tough road ahead. And then Van Goat says, but who is buying and using BYD? BYD is most popular in China.
Yeah.
But it's surprisingly, it has about 16 or 17% of the Australian EV market.
Right. Yeah, I did read that somewhere.
It's very popular. It's second to Tesla in popularity in Australia. It's more popular than Tesla in China, and they're making significant inroads in Europe as well.
Just by little in China, though.
Yeah, just by very little,
very little.
But it is more popular in China than Tesla by just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we're coming to the top of the hour here, actually past it a little bit. As always, I want to thank the audience for joining us. And Brad, it was a pleasure having you on
thanks
this
for being
podcast.
here.
Yeah, great. It was a great time.
We'll have to do this more often.
Oh, for sure.
I guess that's it then. We'll see you next week, Tuesday at 11 a.m.
And you'll see Pete and Jesse tomorrow at 10 o'clock on the AI podcast.
Yeah,
nice.
podcast, yes. And, we're going to do a live podcast, by the way, from Flachau, Austria.
Yes.
So, plan for that as well. It'll be interesting. I'll be there in the Alps, and these guys will be sitting here in the studio.
Will be a lot of fun.
Thank you for joining us. See you next week.
Take care.